What if the reason you're stuck isn't because you're lazy, isn't because you lack talent, but because you're waiting for the wrong signal to start? What if motivation was never meant to carry you to the finish line? We talk about motivation like it's a fuel, something you either have or don't. And when it runs out, we assume something is wrong with us. But in every system I ever studied, in games, in design, and in real creative work, systems don't run on feelings. They run on a structure. Picture this, a blank page, a circle, roughly sketched in a notebook. It's imperfect, it's uneven and barely intentional. Now that same circle appears on screen. Clean, centered, and it's responsive. You move it slightly and it reacts instantly. The difference here isn't motivation, it's feedback. Motivation feels powerful because it's loud, it's emotional, and it creates spikes, but these spikes are unstable. Discipline is quieter, almost boring. It doesn't ask you, how do you feel today? It asks one simple thing, and that is the system still running? Games understand this way better than we do. Take Celeste. Celeste is hard, relentlessly hard, but it doesn't rely on motivating you with speeches or rewards. It does something else. It makes restarting effortless. If you fail, you gain back control instantly. No punishment, no friction, and no emotional tax. It's not motivation, it's discipline that is designed into the system. Now let's compare that to a game like Dark Souls. Failure feels heavy, it's deliberate, and it's almost ceremonial. And yet, people still push through. Why? Because rules are consistent. When you die, it feels fair. The system doesn't change its mind. Discipline doesn't mean it has to be easy, it means it has to be predictable. Imagine a conveyor belt. At the start, an idea. It's raw, it's unpolished, and the belt moves slowly. At first, the section is named start, not finish, not success, just start. And then that idea moves forward. It passes a checkpoint called show up, another one called repeat, and another one called adjust. No section is labeled feel inspired because the belt doesn't care about how you feel, it only cares about that it keeps on moving. Motivation wants to skip this belt. It wants to teleport the idea straight to the end, but discipline builds the belt instead. Think about Hades. You die constantly, runs end early, progression resets, but something always carries over. A small upgrade, a small new option, and a tiny permanent change. You're not motivated to finish a run, but you're disciplined into doing runs, and the game rewards consistency, not emotional intensity. And now, think about another game, Factorio. There is no motivation system in Factorio. There is flow. One machine feeds another, bottlenecks appear, and you fix them. The factory doesn't ask you if you feel inspired today. It asks if the throughput is stable. And somehow, that's enough to keep people playing for hundreds of hours. And creative work is the same. The moment you start depending on motivation, you've added randomness to your system. And that randomness kills reliability. And there's an uncomfortable truth. Motivation feels really productive because it front loads effort. Discipline, instead, feels slow because it distributes the effort. But one burns brightly and fast, and the other one indefinitely. Imagine a simple room. White walls, soft light, and in the center a cube. That cube is your project. When motivation hits, the cube spins wildly. Lights flash, camera shakes, and it feels alive. And then motivation fades. The cube stops, the room goes quiet. Discipline doesn't spin the cube faster, but it does make sure that the room exists every day. And this is why just work harder never works, because effort without structure is just complete noise. Game designers don't rely on player motivation. They rely on loops, on input, feedback, and adjustment, and they repeat that. In Super Mario, jumping feels good, not because you're motivated to jump, but because the arc is predictable. In Minecraft, progress feels real because the blocks persist. In roguelike, masteries emerge because repetition is expected. And none of these games ask, are you inspired right now? They ask, did you press the button? Discipline is pressing that button, even when nothing dramatic happens. And this is where most people misunderstand discipline. They think it's about forcing, about grinding, suffering, and pushing through pain. But in good games, friction is intentional. Bad friction is removed, good friction teaches. Discipline isn't about making things harder, it's just about removing unnecessary resistance. Discipline is the gameplay, and gameplay is the part that actually counts. So maybe the question isn't, how do I stay motivated? Maybe the real question is, what system would still work on my worst day? What would still move through my conveyor belt even if the lights are dim? Start building that system. Make starting easy, make your progress visible, and make stopping intentional. Because motivation will always fade every other day. But a well-designed system plays itself as long as you show up. And that is a real game feel. And with that, don't forget to subscribe. And I hope I'll see you in the next one.